Our next assignment is an ensemble, Erie Canal, which is on page 83. And you're going to notice Erie Canal has multiple parts. So there are 4 separate parts that you could read, and this is not normally how you read piano music. But if you're going to play part 1, there's part 1. I'm dragging along the cursor, and then it jumps down to the second line right there, and that's your part. Part 2 is only the right hand, so you'd play through these, and I'll talk about what you play here. And then second line is right there, and then third line. Now this is actually a piano part with both hands, the third part. So you see how the grand staff is marked. So part 3 is la da 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 da, and so forth. So all the way through there, I'll talk about what you play in the blank measures, and then here through there, and finally part 4 is the bass line. That's D, 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 G, G, A, and so forth. And it just follows that bottom line. Now, if you're going to play part 1 for your assignment, you're going to choose 2 parts to play. So you'll play with the disc. You can play it at a slower tempo if you want. It has a repeat sign down here, so the disc plays it twice. And you'll choose 2 parts. You can play through part 1, and then on the repeat, play part 2, or whichever parts you choose. But I'm going to talk to you about how all these go. So the first part is pretty straightforward. You just simply play the right hand there, right? There's nothing unusual about that. However, let's look at part 2. So if you notice D, F, A, that makes a D chord, and then it says D minor there. So the chord symbol up here tells you what to play, D, F, A, and that's the direction that the pattern goes. So 5th, 3rd root, 5th, 3rd root, right? D, F, A. So it goes from the top to the bottom. And then G minor, you move up to the G position. And 5th, 3rd root, same thing. If you notice, there's a flat in the G minor chord. You need to remember that. And the middle note is black key. And then the next one is A. And you'll see that there's a black key in the middle there. So you would play it broken. And here there's nothing. Well, if you look up at the chord symbol, and it's D minor. So you play a D chord. Part 2 down here, D, A, D, and then we go back to the D minor. And then here's the G minor. And A, see where I'm seeing that right up there? And then here is D minor. And D, A, D. Okay, so that's how part 2 goes. Part 3, if you choose to do that, is very similar, using the same chords, only you use 2 hands. So the pattern here actually goes up instead of down. So here's the D minor. Notice how on your left hand you play the root 5th, right hand you play the root 3rd. So that's that, and of course it repeats here. And then we move up to the G position right there. There's the G, and you'll notice here it's A. And the next measure that looks blank, it's the D chord. So you play the D chord twice there. And then part 3 down here is just D, A, D. Next measure is blank, so you just follow along with the D chord there. And here we have the G minor. And then the A. And then D minor, and then the last measure, and then finally the bass line down there, you just simply play the root. So there's the pattern that repeats. The next measure is G and A, so G, G, A, and then here's D minor, and then just like the other measures, D minor again, G and A, just like before, and back to D again. See, it's the same rhythm almost every measure, and finally, now, so as you can tell, the bass line, part 4 is a single line. Part 1 is a single line right hand. Since the others are chords, a good way to practice this is to block it. So You can play along with the disc. Here's part 2, blocking. So you would just block those notes together. 1, 2, 2, and then the G minor. 2. I'm just blocking. We've done that a lot before. Now we go to D. And here we have that. You can separate that. Here's the D minor again. Then notice G minor, and A, and D, so forth. And then you can block the part 3 the same way. And this second part of the measure. And here's the next measure. Then it goes up to A. You can play along with the disc just like this. We've blocked chords lots before. And here's our DAD. Next one is G minor. And then the D minor. Last measure. Now, again, you're going to play this twice. You're going to choose 2 parts. I'm going to record this for you slowly, but I'm going to play part 2 the first time and then part 3 the second time, just so you can see how it goes. I don't need to play part 1 or part 4 for you because they're single lines. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. But again, when you're practicing this, play it slowly and block first. Or the part 3. And so forth. So it's a good way to practice it and learn it before you actually try to record it. And once again, I'm going to slow it down a little bit from where the disc goes because it's fairly fast. So, okay, so you can choose any 2 parts you want, and you will record this with the disc. Slower is just fine. In fact, if you just take this recording and play it that I've got right here and play along with it, it's slowed down to 80, so it's instead of 100. So here is ErieCanal, first part 2 and then part 3. But again, you can play any part that you want. It's just that you'll be, while I'm playing this, you'll be able to see it on the keyboard on the screen, what it looks like on the keys. So here is part 2 followed by part 3. Part 3. All right, so good luck with that one.